nerds and nerdettes and we little nerdlings all. It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming! Yes! I love doing that. Man, I really do. So, for a Tabletop Takeout Tuesday, again, you see we are inside for this one. But for Tabletop Takeout Tuesday, I got a game that I actually found out about. I'm not trying to give a plug to another show, but the only reason, I got to be honest here, the only reason I know about this game, the only reason I thought it was fun is because I saw it played on Will Wheaton's Tabletop. And the back and forth with the storytelling, man, it really got me. And I showed it to my wife, and it's become one of her favorite games, actually, which says a lot, because as I've mentioned before, she doesn't have a lot of favorite board games. So the game we're talking about today, I'm primarily talking about the first edition because I have not gotten my hands on the second edition as of yet. But if I do somehow to get my hands on a copy of that, trust me, there's going to be a huge showcase on this game. And that game by, was it Atlas, correct? Boom, let me double check there. Atlas Games, yes, I was correct. Why did I even bother, my friends, to question myself? And that game is Gloom. Now, Gloom is, I think, a very fun card game. It is a little different. It is a little unique. You know, it kind of reminded me the way I felt when I was, I don't know, about 15 to 16 years old, and we were having a party at a friend's house. Maybe I was, I don't know. But we were having a party at a friend's house, and they pulled out Mad Magazine, the board game. And it was kind of like Monopoly, but the idea was to lose your money. And I thought that was such a backwards, brilliant idea. And this is somewhat like it, which is why I'm wearing this shirt, actually, because this is a game of high life and low life. That's for sure. So Gloom has these really interesting cards. I've seen them a few times in other games, but this was the first game I saw that had these clear cards. So the base game comes with 4 families, 5 family members each. And there's no difference besides thematics to pick the families. None of the families have any special bonuses or abilities that bend the rules or anything, which is usually what I look for. But because of the way this game is set up, this is one of the few games I actually don't mind that there's nothing special really about the families other than the thematics of it. So if you want to, although this is a 2 to 4 player game, you can't play 5 players if each of the 4 players playing a family decides to discard one of their family members. Then there's sort of a misfit family that the 5th player can play. Now, this game is listed for ages 13 and up, and I'm going to agree with that just for the sake of that's what the publisher said. You know your kids, you know your family, you know your young friends, your buddies, so you use your discretion as for the age, because this game is a little, it's tongue-in-cheek, poking fun violence in the way that the Addams Family is. In fact, Charles Addams and his Addams Family is one of the inspirations for this game, along with another gentleman called Edward Gorey. Famous comic strips that they've done. Of course, Charles Addams has become a little bit more famous because of all the different movie and television iterations of the Addams Family. But it's along those lines. So if you're cool with the kind of violent fun that's poked at in the Addams Family, then you shouldn't have a problem with Gloom whatsoever. So the idea of this game, like I said, it reminded me of the old Mad Magazine board game. So the idea is your family members, it is your job as the player of that particular family, it is your job to make the family as miserable as possible, which is really kind of fun because the cards you get to play on them are all tongue-in-cheek along the lines of Edward Gorey. And if you're not familiar with Edward Gorey, the Ghastly Crumb Tinies, and I would also suggest looking up the Chinese Obelisk. Those are my 2 favorites because they are his alphabets. And as I mentioned in the Midday Monologue Monday, an example from the Chinese Obelisk is A is for author who went for a walk. B is the boar who engaged him in talk. Or from Tiny's, it's A is for Albert, who fell down the stairs. B is for Basil, who was mauled by bears. So, and the pictures are very fun. And this game, who is the artist here? Oh my goodness, I don't have, I'll put a little note up here because the artist really needs to be complimented. And I didn't have that in my note. I'm sorry, and I don't see it listed on the box. So I'll put that right up here. The artists are artists. They definitely know their Edward Gorey, their Charles Addams. I find it very hard to believe that this was just happenstance. You might also be familiar with the artwork from the PBS Mystery Series that aired in the 90s, I think it was. Maybe the 80s, the 90s. Wow, I can't even remember. I'm getting old. The past is all one big chunk to me now. But that's the style of artwork. And it's very fun. So the cards you're playing, like I said, you want to make your family as miserable as possible. And then when you get them at the point where they're at the most, well, points of being miserable, you play an untimely death on them. And that's how you're going to score the points for that family. Now, it's not that easy because the other players are trying to do that as well. And you are trying to do to them what they are trying to do to you. And that's play happy cards, basically. You know? So, and the reason these cards are clear is because it allows the point system to stack on top of each other to cancel some bonuses out. And that gives it this really amazing balance of strategy of how you want to approach playing each card down. Yeah, you could play a card that's going to take away a bigger bonus point, but you might be able to play a card that's going to take away less of a bonus point, but also hinder them in some way. So, you know, you have these choices to make that make it very interesting and a little bit more tactical, I think, than most people realize who haven't played the game. So you're trying to make them happy. They're trying to make you happy. But what really makes this game fun, and it's mentioned in the rule book, and it's the real thing that grabbed me on tabletops so long ago, was the storytelling. You're not just playing a card on your creepy clown, let's say, from the circus family. You're not just playing a card down on him like pursued by poodles. You're telling the story. So the clown was at a birthday party making clown animals, and he accidentally popped a bunch of them, and that caused the poodles to go crazy and chase him down the street. He was pursued by poodles. And you know, it's not just about the creativity also. It's also about stacking the stories on top of each other. You know, so then one of my opponents, you know, might play something like Wedded in Inheritance. I'm not even sure if that's a card, just off the top of my head. And so, oh, well, you know, he got so much attention because the poodles, the lady that owned him, felt so bad that she ended up marrying him to make the creepy clown feel better. It's craziness, but it makes it so much fun. And that is the most appealing thing, I think, of an already very interesting game. There's a second edition of it out, like I said. There's also several expansions for the first edition that have second edition translations as well. Things that add unhappy homes and wow, I can't remember all of them. There's one about an expedition, and they all add another family on top of that. Plus they add something else, like the Unhappy Homes cards gives homes, cards that are little homes for each of these families. The expedition has actual expedition cards that can be played, and you play them. You know, they have compass points on them, so it's very interesting. Each card brings something else in each of these expansions. So it's a really fun filler game. You can play this game. See, this is the problem I have with trying to put a time on this game, because playing it straight through, I think definitely a 2, maybe a 3-player game, you could play in about 45 minutes. I think a 4-player game, or if you play a 5-player game, is going to take about an hour, maybe a little bit more, an hour and a half. But that's not how you really have to time this game, because if you and your friends are having a lot of fun telling these stories, the stories add time. The laughing and joking about them take time. The referencing them from several turns ago takes time. But it doesn't make the time drag, because you're having so much fun at this. So it's hard for me to actually put a time on the game for what I think the best count is a 3-player game. It works okay with 4. I'm not very big with it with 2 because it's just that back and forth attack. I like when you have at least a third person to kind of really mix it up because it broadens out the strategy. And now you have to wonder, not just is Anthony attacking me, but is Ryan attacking me? Is Alex attacking me? And how much time and cards do I want to dedicate attacking them? So I think 3-player game is really perfect for it. So please check out by Atlas Games. Did I just sound like Peter Brady there for a moment? Please. Okay, Greg. So please check out by Atlas Games Gloom, the card game. And if you already have it, why don't you give us a little note down the bottom, tell us how you like it. If you have a favorite card or a favorite family, let us know what it is. I think my favorite family from the base game is the Carnival family. I really dig playing them a lot, even though I usually go for purple team. The Carnival team, I think, is yellow, but I usually go for them anyway. So let us know your thoughts about Gloom if you've ever played it. This makes a fun game. Like I said, for families, but you got to know your kids. You got to know what kind of tongue-in-cheek violence you find okay for them. Like I said, if you think Addams Family is okay, then this is going to be okay for them, in my opinion. So Gloom by Atlas Games. Go check it out. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G. 2 Gun Pixie presents the Legendary Gaming, and I want to thank you, all my friends. Thank you for following us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for checking us out on Instagram. And of course, as always, the biggest thank you of all, thank you for checking us out right here on YouTube. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. And thank you for sharing our videos. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G, as I said, and I am out of here.